Well, welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the house barrage, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Being kind is the guys in this mess in the first place.
You can put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. How's everybody doing today? Well, yesterday we talked a little bit about one of the various extremely concerning things going on in Congress right now, specifically the bipartisan attempt to repeal Section 230, which basically makes what we're doing here and pretty much everything worthwhile on the internet possible. A subject that really does not get discussed anywhere near enough. We're not gonna go back to that today, but if you haven't seen it, go check out Taylor Lorenz's YouTube channel. She has a video on the subject. She's like practically alone, as far as I can tell, in really following this closely. So, and then we had a look at Matt Walsh, who, shockingly enough, is angry. I mean, it's fascinating. You'd think that these guys would be happy, because supposedly they, won. But no, they're fucking miserable. They're just, professionally miserable little fucks. And Matt Walsh, in this case, was particularly angry about the halftime show. And about the fact that the best that his lot can do is fucking Kid Rock. Well, he didn't even talk about that, at least in what we saw. Yeah, and who can blame him? I wouldn't want to draw attention to it either if that was the best talent I could find. So what are we gonna do today, though? What are we gonna do? Just so much crap, so little time. Well, Asmongold has a video out called It's All Crashing Down. And being as he's just a monument to just fucking racism and ignorance and inexplicably the biggest Twitch streamer, I mean, the biggest political Twitch streamer, I should say. That's probably worth looking at. So we're gonna just have a look at what he and the dead rat that controls his sense of time have to say about why it's all crashing down.
The Concordian timeline.
Okay, the Concordian timeline. What is this? It is the official subreddit of Jesus. I can't imagine anything quite as hard to stomach as an Asmongold Reddit. But okay.
No. Guys, this is like, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the Marvel movie timelines. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, this is phase 3 of Marvel. And, you know,
What? These guys need to watch more fucking movies. I mean, it's like the only movies they've got are Marvel movies, it seems like. And Ready Player One.
Of 2022, you're gonna get, you know, Captain America or something like that, right? Oh my god. So Concord, High Guard, Marathon, and Horizon coming 2026. The Concordian timeline. And then, yeah, where's the thing that I can find it? Yes, Timeline Concordia. Precursor events, Concord and Ship Concordia. Original
SJW Acid Trip Marathon. Pale Imitation with 2 M's. How's everybody doing? Absolute diabetes.
Sin Concord, Pale Imitation High Guard, SJW Acid Trip Marathon, Zero Diet, Absolute Diabetes, Horizon Zero Dawn, and then who knows what comes up after that.
Okay, I'm not sure what the fuck we're talking about, but I'm sure we're gonna get to where it's all crashing down soon.
No, I think this is really gonna be it. And what about Assassin's Creed Shadows? It wasn't, I mean, no, Assassin's Creed Shadows was bad, but it was nothing like these games. Like, these games were generational flopperooskies, okay? Like, it was so bad, I don't even know what to say. Let me see if I can pull it up. And where the fuck did it go? I'm looking for this. Okay, High Guard. High Guard. Okay.
That sounds like a weed-based deodorant is my first impression of the concept of High Guard.
So where's Veilguard?
Like deodorant that just smells like, it makes your armpits smell like skunk.
I feel like Veilguard wasn't even there. It's not even there at all. High Guard's dev team got laid off. And this is also, this is some guy, I guess maybe it's like some Japanese guy. High Guard's dev team got laid off. Horizon Hunter's Gathering got more dislikes than likes. Was just bringing it up.
Okay, is this all? Is it just going to be talking about?
Devs stop because if kills the industry, and why all of this stuff is allowed, and that's why it keeps happening. It's because they don't care about the outcome. He did that. Red message felt comments about the game's player count. There he is, the man who killed High Guard, right there. You see him? He did that. Red message felt
okay. Okay, if this is all we're going to talk about, I think I'm going to move over to something else. So I'm skipping ahead. Yeah, okay, so far it all looks like it's... Is it all to do with fucking High Guard? Is that all we're talking... I don't even... I mean, obviously... Okay, here we go. This looks like we're changing subjects. This looks like more of the kind of bullshit we're here for.
And they didn't even release him at the beginning. So, yeah, copy-paste. And you compare that to, let's say, like, Marvel Rivals characters, right? Good. Compare it to reiterate if women characters watch. My God.
Okay, is this all gonna be High Guard? I'm gonna just keep on going, and let's see.
Because of that,
okay, so far it's all
you
fucking
can't
high
really
guard.
control. Like if, and so it's. The fact is that
More high guard shit.
Streamers, they have like a 10 to 20% on it. Weren't they enough? You had to be good looking. You did some modeling, both gay. I'm aware of this as a bad looking guy. Well, I'm just telling you, right? I mean, you've got to look at like, I mean, if you go, listen, I don't want to talk a lot about myself.
Okay, yeah, that's probably, I will say, I mean, the more you know about him, the less appetizing it is. So I can understand. I think he's absolutely right not to talk more about himself.
It's not really about me, but like all out of a swamp. Everybody starts tagging me in the photo because it looks just like me. Really? I mean, what are we doing here? This is, oh, wow.
I don't know. I never know what the fuck you're doing here. Okay, so...
And they are learning the same lesson that I have been trying to teach them for years.
Oh, we're going to get some teachings.
All you guys have to do is listen. That's all you have to do is listen. Vlad the Impaler? Fuck. Fuck, man. I don't have the mustache. To be fair, I do not have the mustache.
Or the nose. Or the Riz. Okay.
500 years. Oh. Fuck, man.
Exactly, which is why we're going to be switching. Okay, saw enough of that. Okay, here we go. There has been a situation. And who's that in his fucking thumbnail? It's all crazy. It looks like Maury Povich.
A lot of people have been getting mad as fuck over this. There's been a lot of drama.
Okay. This being... This tweet here, Hassan's statement to trans voters, Democrats don't care about you. They would literally shoot you in the fucking head if it meant they would secure them electoral wins. And the one thing that I would say I would disagree with there is they don't give a shit about electoral wins. Like, actually screwing over LGBT people, alienating queer voters, alienating like their entire voting base, like that isn't a winning strategy, and there's no way that they are seriously believing that it is, because polls exist, they can fucking read them. But other than that, yeah, I mean, look, has anyone in the Democratic Party pushed back against fucking Newsom, who keeps on having these Nazis on his podcast so we can nod along while they say transphobic shit?
With this specific clip recently. Hassan's statement on trans voters.
You're yelling at one of the few people that does give a fuck about trans people in general.
I mean, okay, and now I see a friend of mine on Blue Sky had reacted to this, which I hadn't seen yet from Hassan. I still this is still the first I'm seeing of it, although I've seen discourse about it, and she said that it actually kind of pissed her off to find that she felt inclined to defend like a trans shitlib over the sense of entitlement of a cis suckdem, the cis suckdem being Hassan. Because it's like, yeah, on the one hand, yeah, I mean, what he's saying is true. The Democrats don't give two shits. Like, they could have been really throwing themselves into the defense, but they've been very content to try to move the Overton window to the right on this issue, so that in hopes that people will stop giving a shit whether trans people live or die.
Okay? That's all you're doing! Democrats don't give a fuck about you! They would literally shoot you in the...
I think if you actually give a fuck about trans people, you would abandon issues like trans children.
Oh, well, now we're getting a great take here. So if you care about trans people, you would abandon trans people who are children, because that makes sense in his world.
And trans sports, because these
like trans sports, like the only reason anyone's talking about this shit is that assholes like him have insisted on pretending that there is an issue, and because Riley Gaines came it tied for 5th place and decided that that was her Vienna art school rejection moment. And since this, you know, she was clearly no good at fucking swimming, at least at the competitive level, that she should just become a fascist instead. Because nobody else gave a fuck. Trans people have been eligible to participate in sport for quite a long time. But the thing is, most trans people do not make the cut because, and trans women who, what this whole scaremongering is about, overwhelmingly do not make the cut because trans women don't have any fucking advantage over cis women, and in fact, there's pretty good evidence that there is, in fact, a significant disadvantage.
There are 90-10 losing issues that will never be normalized because they go against every form of logic, rationality, cultural expectation.
No, I'm glad that we have Asmongold to tell us about logic and rationality, because those are things that he is really famous for.
And common sense that exists in the world.
Motherfucker, you kept a dead rat in your bedroom for, by your own admission, for like weeks, when it was already decomposing enough that the smell would wake you up. Maybe don't talk about common sense.
So if you really cared about trans people, what you would do is you would try to find a moderate position.
If you really care about trans people, what you would try to do is have, you know, sort of impose restrictions on their just basic human rights and their ability to live their lives. You know, this is literally the Nuremberg Law's position, is the wild thing. In fact, I mean, if you actually go back and you look at the historical record, what you find is after the big November pogrom, Kristallnacht, there was a whole lot of people, a whole lot of like grassroots Nazis actually kind of freaked out about it, because they had assumed the whole thing was resolved with the Nuremberg laws, and suddenly this whole thing, you know, it wasn't the way they wanted to do it, because it was not orderly. You know, they were fine with like fucking mass murder and persecution, but it has to follow certain rules. You know, German way of doing things essentially was that what they were complaining about. So that's what he's doing, and I've actually seen, like, this is actually a position you hear Democrats espousing. I mean, you hear like people like fucking Cenk and Anna-Transphobian over at the Young Turfs saying shit like this.
That you could sell to the general public, rather than trying to grandstand and soapbox and say, no, I really care about trans people.
And therefore, I'm going to defend all of trans people's human rights, rather than just a couple that Nazis will currently pretend to be okay with. Because clearly, I mean, if there's one thing that you can be sure about, it's that you can never go wrong appeasing fascists. When you appease fascists, they just go away.
So I'm going to pretend like trans men and biological women are the same athletically.
I mean, literally nobody claims that trans men and cis women are the same athletically. Like, the only reason you will occasionally, I mean, there have been cases of like trans teen boys playing in girls' leagues, and the reason for that is because they're not allowed to play in the boys' league, because guys like Asmongold thought that would be unfair to let them play in the boys' league, because they don't understand. I mean, because, like, look at him.
And also, by the way, here's the other big issue with that.
Let's hear the big issue.
Is that what defines whether a person is trans?
Oh, good, we're going to get into it. I'm so glad that we have Asmongold working this out.
Well, it's if the person says they're trans.
Yeah, but that's never been the standard in sports. I mean, that literally has never been the standard. Like, I mean, in fact, this is why Lady Ballers ended up not being what Ben Shapiro and whatever shitlords were involved in that thing planned on it being. Because they thought they could self-ID their way into the WNBA. They thought that's how that was going to work. And in the course of doing it, they found out, no, trans women cannot, you can't just self-identify, say, you know, rock up and say, hey, I'm a trans woman, I'd like to play WNBA, and they just put you on a team. No, obviously that's not how it works. You have to be on hormones for a certain amount of time and stuff. There are very specific, exacting rules on the subject.
That's it. That's the end of the conversation. If they say they're trans, then they're trans. So they don't even necessarily, according to this logic and rationality, you don't even need to go through anything.
No, you shouldn't need to go through anything that you don't feel is necessary. But of course, in the world of sports, you very much do. And for as long as trans people have been allowed to play in any competitive sports in the appropriate gender division, that has been the case.
You don't even need to go through hormones or anything like that. So, by being dogmatic, their opponents can easily lay traps for them.
Oh wow! Okay, now he's gonna play some fifth dimensional chess with us.
It can, and this is the big issue: is that a lot of these people end up getting caught, and they have
caught. Like,
huge problem with it because
what problem? What would you get caught? Like, I mean, the people I always see getting caught are reactionaries like Asmongold when they're asked to actually name some trans people who are playing at the trans women who are playing at the top level of their sport, because they basically can't name them. I mean, there's like one.
Basically, like you get caught with these 90-10 issues. So
it also isn't one. And aside from that, here's the thing. And this is a pretty basic thing. Most people do not know trans people, or if they have met trans people, they have no idea of it, because there just aren't that many trans people. So, like, literally the only thing they've heard is bullshit from guys like this about the subject of trans women in sports. So, like, the fact that so even if it were 90-10, based on that, there's still the question of whether it would still be if they actually heard heard somebody talk seriously about it and point out what the reality is.
So whenever you care, and this is the problem with people like Hassan, is that Hassan is right in a way, but I think that for people like Hassan, it's more important that they are seen as being beneficial for trans people rather than being functionally beneficial for trans.
I mean, this guy has said before that he just wants trans people to disappear and, like, be exterminated, basically. So hearing him talk about what's beneficial to trans people, I don't know, I feel like maybe he's got a bit of a conflict of interest here.
Trans people. Like, in my opinion, being beneficial to trans people and trying to help them is not taking their most extreme stances.
This isn't... I mean, it is so cute that he thinks that trans women should be allowed to play in sports is the most extreme, like, trans position on anything.
And saying it's all or nothing.
I mean, yeah, well, it is. You either get all of your basic fucking human rights or you don't have them. That is kind of all or nothing, though.
I think that being beneficial for them is looking at where their positions are, seeing how you can put that into your policy, and then adapting your policy in a way that
that satisfies Nazis. It satisfies people like Asmongold who would prefer that there were no trans people.
And make a winning condition to give them some of what they want.
I mean, and the wild thing about this here, the biggest bullshit about this, and this is a standard piece of bullshit framing. Now, I will say I do not accuse Asmongold of being aware enough to realize this particular aspect of it, because I think he probably actually goes to great lengths to avoid knowing anything. There's been no evidence of him actually knowing things ever. But the things that he's presenting as these maximalist positions are rights trans people already have. I mean, the reason they do this, and I've mentioned this previously when it's come up on stream because it bears repeating, is if they admit that what they're trying to do is take away rights trans people have had for a long time, then that looks kind of fucked up. They understand that the optics of that aren't great. And plus, it leaves them having to address questions like Like, why should we get rid of this? It hasn't caused any problems yet. And they don't want to do that, so they act like it's this novel maximalist demand rather than just the current, like, status quo position.
That's obviously what you should do. It's common sense. But the problem is that a lot of people inside of Hassan's orbit they don't care about trans people. They don't.
Oh, well, yeah, as opposed to Asmongold's orbit. I'm sure that Asmongold's orbit is full of people who just love trans people.
Give a shit about it. They care about being seen as if they care about trans people. Trump has removed a lot of privileges and a lot of things that trans people were previously able to do.
I mean, it's interesting to describe those as privileges because it's literally just things everybody else gets to do too.
And now they're not able to do those things, such as serve in the military, be able to go into certain bathrooms.
I mean, actually, now it's true that the Sex Pest Brigade wants to have like these forced genital inspections if you want to go into a public toilet. That isn't, I mean... And it's true that there have been cases of harassment, including of cis women, it's worth noting, who did not meet somebody's, like, fucking beauty standards. But actually, and yeah, has been criminalized, but the thing is, nobody actually notices in the first place. Nobody noticed before. This is part of why the fascists are able to pretend that this is a novel thing, because most people have absolutely no idea about it. It was never discussed because most people don't notice, and so, and that's still the case. Like, people still don't notice.
And also be able to compete in sports. These are all things that Trump has done.
So you're saying, okay, now he's admitting these were not maximalist demands at all. They are the status quo. You're taking away rights from them.
And so if you really cared about that, and also I think that the general sentiment of trans has gone down massively.
I mean, no, it hasn't. There's literally no evidence of that.
It's massively gone down. Like, for example, like you're saying, like, oh, nobody's trans, never referring to them as their pronouns or anything like that. I do think that really, like, that is an overcorrection for that. I cannot have my own opinion. I don't care what you guys think.
I mean, like, literally, he's just, at this point, he's just making shit up even more than he usually does.
It's not my point, but my point is that whenever you say that, like, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter, you are never going to get the public to accept that a man that says that they're a woman is going to have the ability, like, you, by saying that you're a woman, this isn't like a class switch. It's not like Neo 3, where you press one button and you go from...
Yeah, except, here's the thing. We actually know this isn't true because this has been the case for a long time. People were already doing that. And it's only in the past decade. And it's worth noting, we talked about this last week on stream, but it seems that Epstein seems to have been at least a part of an instigating factor in why these fascist shitlords are all obsessed with slagging off trans people.
Stance to ninja stance. You don't get to respec from male to female. You didn't unlock dual spec at the class trainer.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's so great that he knows so much about this that he just uses his fucking video game knowledge.
In Stormwind, okay? There's no way that you can do the, but there's not absolute ambiguity. So the problem is that whenever...
What is absolute ambiguity, though?
You take...
What does that even mean?
These high-minded virtue signal positions...
Like, trans people shouldn't have their basic human rights stripped away.
What you end up doing is you sandbag and you make it impossible for the rational, normal positions to be able to take...
Well, yes, but the thing is, what he considers rational, normal positions on trans issues are what normal people consider, like, genocidal positions. So, yeah, it is good to sandbag those positions, actually.
Place. That's the problem.
Like, pile those fucking sandbags high.
So it's like what I've always said, if you make reasonable discourse impossible, you make unreasonable discourse inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, the fucking guardian of reasonable discourse here.
And I think that's what's happened.
Give a fuck about you. They would literally shoot you in the fucking head if it meant that they would be able to secure additional electoral wins.
Yeah, and like the only objection factually is they don't give a shit about wins.
Shut the fuck up.
Well, there it is.
You're yelling at one of the few people.
What is this here? This is some other, some idiot. Okay, anyway, you feel like I'm listening to Bass Malts? Yeah, exactly, right? Why is he so emotional? He's...
Well, because it pisses him off to... first of all, I mean, somebody, like, called him out, and that doesn't feel great. And for another thing, I mean, it is kind of frustrating to hear people talk about the Democrats like they give a shit about trans people when they have been actually quite assiduously making efforts to dispel that notion.
Been really the reason why he's really upset right now is that Hassan.
See, we've pivoted now. Asmongold has gone from telling us what would be good for trans people to psychoanalyzing Hassan. I'm sure this is gonna go great.
Had part of his what he considers to be like his base and his own community turn on him for like this, and also the Gavin Newsom quote. So he's always, I've noticed this with Hassan over the years, is that he's always been extremely sensitive to any time that, his own side is turning against losing viewers. I mean, he's had a couple of good streams recently, but it's hard really to say. But either way, this person...
Oh my god, okay, here we go. The trans person said to Hassan, "My issue as a trans person is the fact that you, a guy that isn't super well versed on trans shit, can comment on that, I'm not sure, brought on a known transphobe, knowing he might bring up transphobic shit. I don't know who they're talking about. You aren't exactly a Vosh at trans debate. Wait, what? Like, that's a compliment. Vosh is a big fucking transphobe, in addition to being a nonce. Like, I mean, is it supposed to be a good thing to be a Vosh at trans debates?
Trans person self. I hope the rest of your life is horrible every single day. This is some other trans clip as well. And L-Take, I'm a liberal. I see no indication even Corpo Dems would turn their back on trans.
I mean, that's just nonsense, though. I mean, they already have done it.
There are ways to win voters. It's not lying.
Actually, that tends to be a fairly effective way, as long as you don't get caught.
And he's radicalizing himself. And so a lot of people are mad about this. I mean, I do think that...
Like, what did we radicalizing himself? What does that even mean? He's just a fucking social democrat.
Obviously, and this is the rational thing to do, right? Is that if you have an issue, like, for example, making it...
We have somebody saying Joe Biden literally tanked his popularity throughout his entire term by choosing to stand up for trans people, which is, I mean, that is a wild thing to say, because Joe Biden did nothing for trans people the whole time. And in fact, the best proof of this is if you go to these major supposed trans advocacy organizations that really just do GOTV shit for the Democrats, and you find the list of his pro-trans achievements, and there's like not a single thing on there. There's not a single real thing. It is things like he went to a fucking GLAAD dinner. He went to an HRC like benefit gala or something like that. Meanwhile, I mean, when it comes to actual policy, one of the things Biden did was open the door, just kick the door wide open to these state-level healthcare bans with his ACA new rule.
A child trans. Like a 12-year-old going through gender transition surgery, or...
Well, I mean, 12-year-olds don't go through that, but okay. Rock on.
Puberty blockers. If that is your position, you have just put yourself on the side against 90% of the public.
I mean, that's literally not true. He's just making this number up.
Most people are against that, and they think that it's bad. So if you try to push that narrative and you try to run on that topic, and
I mean what he's saying, I just have to say, because The funny thing is, what he's saying sounds a lot like Jank over at TYT. It sounds like a lot of these right-wing Democrats, what they will try to say in order to justify their opposition to basic rights for trans people. But they really do sound very similar. In fact, I've heard Jank and Anna make this exact same fucking argument before. He's practically plagiarizing it. But it's not true.
The other problem with the trans thing is that everybody understands it.
No, but everybody does not understand it.
Everybody knows what a man is. Everybody knows what a woman is.
No, that's pretty clearly not the case, because the thing is, it's actually way more complicated than that.
Everybody has the a priori knowledge to look around and
That's
see
not what a priori knowledge is.
that men are generally bigger and stronger than women.
Yeah, and that is entirely a function of adult hormone levels.
So whenever you say that, oh yeah, and also like there are so many other cultural parallels to this, like kids can't do X, Y, and Z.
Well, yeah, but kids can get health care. Kids can,
And so a kid can't get a tattoo, but they can change their gender.
Well, the tattoo isn't very easily reversible. Puberty blockers are very easily reversible. You just stop taking them.
There's the logic here, right? It doesn't make any sense. And so the more that you allow this to happen, the more that you will alienate rational, normal people.
Rational, normal people like Aspengold, it's worth noting.
And I think that's the reason why Democrats don't, they stand away from these positions.
I mean, what's interesting is they didn't stand away from these positions until they felt like they had the cover to do it in, like, the past couple of years. Like, if you go back about 10 years ago, there was a bathroom bill that they tried to pass in North Carolina, and it was a huge thing, and literally everybody who was anyone came out publicly against it. Republicans came out against it because it was just so far beyond the pale. And then you had this explosion all at once, all over the place, of these anti-trans laws being made by just fucking fascists. And Democrats who hadn't actually really done anything for trans people, nothing durable, nothing that couldn't be reversed with the stroke of a pen, of like the stroke of one person's pen at that. But they did not, they like sort of resented what they call purity tests, which is where their voters care about something that they don't care about. And so the voters want them to at least pretend to care about it enough to maybe do something decent on it. And so they saw that as an opportunity to move hard to the right on the subject, and they did that.
Because they don't work. What is a woman? Somebody was born as a woman. I mean, like...
Well, really? So even if they have XY chromosomes and complete congenital androgen insensitivity syndrome, for example?
You can be a trans woman, but a trans woman can never be a woman.
But you just used the word twice, just thus proving that you're fucking wrong.
It's just the case, right? It's
no, I'm wrong.
You will never be the same. Now, you can be close, and let's say you can get to 99%.
Again, with these fucking numbers that he pulls out of his ass, which he probably doesn't wipe.
You can look 99% like a woman. That's still not a woman. That's not the same thing.
What do you mean? Like, there is a range in these things already. Like, okay, is he so unfamiliar with women, having never, like, ventured out of this, like, little fucking hole he lives in, that he's never actually seen women, and so he assumes women all look identical?
So there you go. It's never the same. No, it's not. And it doesn't mean that they shouldn't be. And here's the thing, right, is that you can say that a trans woman can never be a woman.
Which is bullshit.
But you can also say that, in the pursuit of empathy and politeness.
All things that, Aspengold believes in so much. Okay, I'm kind of sick of Aspengold at this point. Unfortunately, we've got something else to look at. So, yes. But thankfully, I'm so glad that Aspengold was telling us, what would be good for trans people. Because, if there's anyone I trust on that issue, It's Asmongold. But I got something else for you, and we're just gonna move on to it. Ah, there we go. Yes, because Caleb Muppet has a question for us. He's wondering when dissident MAGA will awaken.
Hey everybody, how you doing tonight?
Oh wow, he's looking a little rough. Jeez, I mean, and he's still like, could you fix your autofocus? It's making me cross-eyed.
All of you, we're going to have yet another great late night chat. Let's go.
Spoken of the American century. I say that the century
oh yeah.
And the resource.
Yep. So we're going to do our normal format for this stream.
Well, I mean, as normal as it is possible to be over at the CPI, anyway.
First, I talk about what it is I want to talk about, my opening remarks, and then we do a roll call.
What the fuck is this hand on his shirt? With like a fleur-de-lis on it.
And I call you all out as I see you, names and locations,
he's gonna call people out.
And from there, I answer your questions.
He answers your questions. Like, I love how he talks to his audience like he just assumes they know absolutely nothing.
For the remainder of the night. So if there's something that you would like me to talk about in the second half of the program, I would ask that you...
it's like his hair, it's like he's morphing into Michael Rappaport.
You send a question, right? Because that is what makes the second half of the show a lot of fun. Questions can be sent. The best way is buy me a coffee. Go to...
I love that. The best way to ask him a question is to give him money.
buymeacoffee.com/Caleb Maupin and buy me a coffee and send your...
Actually, instead, I mean, people could ask him questions by buying me a coffee. I might forget to relay them, though.
Question. You can be anonymous. Gives you that option. You can talk for...
I mean, understandable option. I would want the anonymous option as well on his stream.
For a long time. There's no limit on the space. It's a really great... so become a member, get in call. And then I answer your questions.
We already talked about this. He already explained about the answering of the fucking questions.
Way to send questions.
Well, he just said all this. I skipped ahead, and he's still saying the exact same shit.
Tonight, I'm making a very, very special appeal. Because we need to talk about politics for a second.
Wow, I mean... As opposed to, like, what do you normally talk about?
In politics, you can't always... I almost said you can't always get what you want.
I mean, I kind of assumed that is what he was going to...
And that's a Rolling Stones song that actually Donald Trump used to play at his rallies.
Which is, that is such a great... I mean... He did? I did not know that, but it's like your fucking theme song is telling people that their expectations won't be met.
Did people ever hear that? You know, they have kind of a kids choir. You can't always get what you want.
Stop, please.
Right, it's a kind of a classic Rolling Stones song, and I guess the chorus is, you can't always get what you want, but you try sometimes, and you get what you need. The truth is, everything can't be perfect. And that we very much live in an age...
Like, for example, his autofocus can't work.
Everything is very, very niche, right? The internet gives us so much access to so many different things, you know? It's like, people don't just like cars anymore. They like
I mean,
red cars. They like.
Wow, I mean that is truly one of the signs of the times. I mean, when people started to have like preferences of the color of their cars. I mean, back after the second run of the Model T or whenever that was.
Cars made by Japanese corporations.
Oh wow! I mean, so like, yeah, that's right. Because very recently Japan started making cars, and
in the year of 1960 and 1975,
Oh my god! I just noticed, because of the way his autofocus is, he's only got Volume 1 of Capital.
We're all very, very niche, and politics.
Yeah, I mean, no argument here. He is niche. He is very niche.
If you get really, really into politics, it can be very, very niche, right? I mean, look at my bookshelf here, right?
I just was. Have you ever thought about reading the rest of Capital? I mean, not that I can claim any there. I've read part of Volume 1. I haven't read the whole thing, but I also don't put it right behind my head in order to impress people with how well read I am.
Nowadays, if you want to be a communist, you don't just have to be a communist, right? You can be a Trotskyite, you can be a Maoist.
Well, yeah, I mean, this new thing, like Maoism and Trotskyism, what the fuck is this? He's just noticing these things. He's just noticing that there is Trotsky. I mean, when did he record this? What time machine did he just emerge from?
Yeah, Enver Hoxha supporter. You can be.
Yeah, because of that new thing, Albania.
An anarcho-communist, right? There's so many brands, and if you're on the right, why, you can be a traditionalist. You can be an anarcho-capitalist, a libertarian. You can be a trad Catholic, distributist. You can be, and that politics is.
I mean, he avoids saying a fascist.
Like that. It can be very much where you have to be the special niche kind, right? That's not how the real world works.
I mean, in the real world, none of that shit is particularly new. I mean, of all the things that he listed, the only really novel things were things that he listed amongst the right wing, and even those aren't all that new.
And you're trying to change things. And this is something that's very, very important to understand. When it's just consumption, when it's just podcasts, sure, you want to listen to somebody who agrees exactly with what you think, doesn't say anything you disagree with, and that's fine.
I mean,
fine. But when you're actually trying to change the world, it's a bit different. I was in Mexico.
But, I mean, you aren't actually trying to change the world, though. You're just grifting.
For a wedding about 3 years ago. And there was a woman from the Code Pink anti-war group there who was a longtime activist. And she talked about how weird politics in America has gotten lately. And she said, I first got active during the Vietnam War. And we were all desperate for that war to end. We were all desperate. That war had to end because we all had relatives who were coming home in body bags. We needed that war to end. And that's what's very, very different about our time is...
I mean, I would have thought... I mean, a lot of people are that desperate about the fucking genocide the U.S. is doing and has been for over 2 years now in Palestine, for example.
That the politics isn't urgently trying to get the change that you urgently need.
I mean, I would say there's a pretty clear sense of urgency in the resistance to ICE and CBP up in LA and the Twin Cities and other places. But which he was slagging off. He said that it's revisionist to resist ICE.
Right? There's not one... It's not like there's a burning house with a little baby in it.
Well, I mean, except the literal ones in Gaza that actually a lot of people are kind of worried about. A lot of people are kind of trying to figure out some way to do something about that.
You just got to move everything to just run into the burning house and get the baby. But that's how it was during the Vietnam War. This war was going on.
I love how he's talking about this is the last time that's ever been the case.
people's draft numbers were coming up. People were coming home in dead bodies.
People were coming home inside dead bodies?
And there was this burning urgency to end the war.
How big were the fucking dead bodies?
Because of that burning urgency, people who didn't agree with each other went out and did stuff, and people were motivated.
I mean, like, you're literally describing, I mean, people who don't necessarily agree completely with each other getting out there and doing stuff is literally, I mean, what we're seeing in Minneapolis and St. Paul, amongst other places, against ICE, and you were slagging that off.
To do things that maybe if it was just a matter of intellectual intrigue, they wouldn't have sat back and done. But it was kind of like, that there's a burning house up the road, there's a little baby inside, so what are you going to do? Well, if that's the case, you've only got so much time before that baby dies from the smoke or is consumed by the flames, so you got to run down the street as fast as you can, and you got to burst into the house, you got to grab the baby and get that baby to safety. That's what you got to do, right? That's how these things work, right? And that when there is a clear, urgent goal that needs to be accomplished, you don't think about...
Like, I mean, what the hell is he talking about here? Like, there are lots of clear, urgent goals that have to be accomplished. It's just that most of them seem to be things he either doesn't give a shit about or outright opposes accomplishing.
What kind of run should I do down the street? Should I do a full jog? Would it be better to sprint? Or will I be too out of breath then? And, should I go in the front door? Or should I go in the back door?
Most people are not actually... I mean, there really doesn't tend to be much debate internally in people. They usually go the front door because the front door is just the first door that you get.
Maybe, what would be the best way? If that baby is in the house and... and it's in the house.
Okay, actually there you might actually give some thought to which entrance you take, because one might be considerably safer than the other.
Have a matter of
so,
time.
okay, I'll give the, yeah.
Time to run in there and get the baby out of the burning building. You don't stay at your apartment and, get out your whiteboard and draw out the floor plan of the house and, plan your go in and your getaway.
Well, yeah, but you might actually stop and ask somebody who knows about the layout of the house, which is the quickest way to get there, because you don't want to burn yourself to death before you find the baby.
Calculate exactly, and then you pull up your AI app. So if I were to get the baby out, what would be the optimal moment? And should I?
Well, yes, and you pull your AI app out, and your AI app, first of all, gives you an inaccurate answer, and second of all, encourages you to self-harm.
Call this 911, or should I call the poison control center? No.
Why would you call the poison control center? It's a fire.
No, you're like, there's a baby.
Since when do you call the poison control center for fires? Does Caleb Maupin not understand fire? Is he an anti-Promethean?
We're going to get out there. We're going to get the baby out of the building. And that when there was that urgency during the Vietnam War period, and people urgently needed the war to end, and the political establishment was not going to end the war, right? The Democrats were mostly on board with the war. The Republicans were definitely on board with the war. But the public was getting weary of it. And the anti-war protesters were increasingly speaking for a majority of Americans, though they were a radical minority at the beginning.
Well, I mean, all of which is actually fairly accurate, although the idea that there weren't all sorts of sects forming during the 1960s around the anti-war movement is nonsense. Like, there were lots of sects, actually. Yeah, they worked together on a lot of things. They also didn't work together on a lot of things. And, but, like, the idea that that's the last time there's been that kind of sense of, like, did you miss the massive, the campus intifada, as it was called?
They did everything they could, and the anti-war marches got bigger and bigger and bigger, and, the Vietnamese were victorious, right? I mean, it was ultimately the Vietnamese people that.
I mean, it also didn't hurt that you had people actually within the military, within the occupation forces in Vietnam, who were shooting their officers and refusing to deploy and all sorts of other stuff. So, like, the discipline of the occupying forces was also an absolute mess.
Ended the war with their heroic, anti-colonial struggle. And it was also divisions within the ruling class and Europe not being on board, France.
Like, he's, completely forgotten what he's talking about at this point, I think.
And, opposing it, and the Paris peace talks, and, Vietnam, the war ended. But there was that burning urgency that enabled people to do things. And we don't have that same kind of burning urgency.
I mean, like, CPI never has that sort of burning urgency. It is, like, I mean, I have to say, one thing that is consistent about them is, I mean, shit could be kicking off within, like, 3 blocks of Caleb's house up there in Brooklyn. And he would be just giving his fucking stream as normal and talking about, it might feel good to participate in the revolution, but that's revisionism. Folks, we're not doing revisionism. We're gonna sit and we're gonna listen to me streaming. Yeah, I know they're taking over all the factories and they're killing the landlords and stuff, and that sounds good. But we need to talk about having a government of action now. Like, I mean, he is like a movement constipator. Anytime there's a sense of urgency, you never see a sense of urgency from him. What the fuck is he talking about?
And that's why people are nitpicky with politics. That's why they're nitpicky.
Well, maybe people have specific ideas that make sense to them because those ideas make sense to them.
The rally is happening.
I mean, because one of the things that is kind of new since the Vietnam War is people's access to information. It isn't as hard to find out about all sorts of different, like, revolutionary tendencies and thinkers and things like that maybe are not so heavily favored that they're easy to find. And so, as a result, people know about more of this stuff.
But there's an influencer there I don't like. There's an influencer there I do like. But then there's this other influencer there I don't like. So.
And, I mean, then there's the CPI, and that guy's a sex pest.
Oh, no, not going to do that one. I agree with the cause, but the organization...
This guy has written, to say he wrote books is, I think, to give him a little bit more credit than is due, because those things you can't really call them. But yeah, they're bound. Okay, I wouldn't call them books. But the thing is, this is the guy who basically says everyone but his cult is a CIA plant. And he's going to talk about sectarianism now?
Put it on. I read on their Wikipedia page that a few years ago, and that people get oddly nitpicky.
Yeah, I see. So people are getting nitpicky about the CPI. I almost said the CIA. Because they find out about, like, how CPI Mark 1 fell apart. And that Caleb Maupin is a fucking sex pest.
And I'm here to tell you that it may not seem like there is a burning baby in a building.
This guy calls himself the ideological leader of the CPI cult. If the people watching his stream are under the impression that there's nothing urgent going on, that's down to him, actually. He's the one who is shaping the state of the discourse in this creepy little circle. Like, if the people in that cult do not realize that, like, there's a fucking genocide the U.S. is continuing to commit, and you have, like, fucking concentration camps being expanded, and you have mass uprisings against state terror in major cities and stuff like that. And, yeah, if they walk away with the idea that there's nothing urgent going on, that's you, Caleb. That's entirely down to you, actually.
It may seem like, well, shit, Caleb, you know, our bills are all going up. That sucks. The roads are falling apart. That sucks. The cost of housing is increasing. Inflation is...
You forgot that sucks.
Worse all the time.
That sucks.
You know, the opioid epidemic is getting worse.
That sucks.
And yeah, we're talking
like, is he not gonna mention any of that stuff?
Attacking Iran again. And
that sucks.
The New START treaty, the nuclear treaty to end the arms race between America and Russia. Yeah, that
sucks.
But you know, there's no like urgent thing, and so
But there are urgent things. But anytime anyone anywhere is acting with a sense of urgency, you slag them off. So if you've surrounded yourself with a bunch of people who never see anything urgent going on, and therefore do not act like there's anything urgent going on, that's down to you.
I agree with you, Caleb. I agree that we don't need a new world war, and I agree that living standards are going down and things are getting shitty in the country. And I agree that,
shitty.
You know, we are in a situation where
shitty.
Our standard of living is being taken away. And yes, I agree there's a police state where, you know, we have ICE going around arresting people.
Thank you for noticing, because the last time you talked about this, you were like, that's just revisionism.
They have no authority to arrest, and they targeted the
I mean, fuck them arresting people. They do have legal authority to arrest, though.
I agree with you on all those things, but, you know, I don't feel any urgency. I don't feel any need to just, you know, run out the door. And
like, literally last week, I mean, I don't remember, maybe it wasn't last week. It was, like, in the past couple of weeks, though. He did a stream where he referred to the resistance to ICE and CBP as drama and said they weren't going to get involved in it because they are anti-revisionists. And now he's criticizing people for not feeling a sense of urgency around that? Like, maybe they would feel a sense of urgency around that if the CPI ever did anything about that.
If somebody's doing something about it, I'm going to make sure they check off all the boxes. But I'm going to listen to your podcast, and I'm going to listen to Jimmy Dore, and I'm going to listen to Candace Owens, and I'm...
Wait, yeah, well, no wonder they don't feel that there's anything particularly bad going on, because they listen to those shitheads. And why would they would get the idea that everything's lovely?
I'm going to listen to Do Dissidents, and, you know, y'all make some good points. Turn on RT, and love RT, and, you know...
I mean, he's telling us so much about his demographic here.
That's how we're going to do things. Well, you know, I am here to say what you may not want to hear.
Okay. We will take bets on what that is.
Okay? But it's what you need to hear. Which is, I don't know if any of you are from Louisiana. Any?
Well, I mean, that's right. There is an urgent matter. He doesn't know if any of the people watching this are from Louisiana.
Are you from the South? Anyone watching from the good old state of Louisiana? In Louisiana, there is a dish that people really, really like called frog legs.
Okay.
You ever had frog legs? I've never eaten them. I have no desire to. It sounds
good. You know what this guy reminds me of? It just occurred to me. His entire style of talking. It reminds me of George Bush Sr. He would do this too. He would like start to make a point, and then he'd be like, "Yeah, well, there's an important thing that we need to talk about, my fellow Americans. But first, is anyone watching from the great state of Louisiana? They have frog legs. I like frog legs.
Very gross. It's quite a popular dish in Louisiana. It's kind of like
it's a French dish that they've probably got their own way of preparing.
Cajun food, right? There's a lot of frogs down there in the swamps of Louisiana. But frog legs, right? You got to boil the frog before you extract its legs and fry them up. And my understanding is the way that they would boil and kill the frogs before they ate them, right? Is that if you throw a frog into a pot of hot water, it jumps out.
Oh, wow. I mean, so he also is under the false impression that this is true. This is not how frogs work, and this is not how hot water works. But cliches is how Caleb works.
And, you want the frog to be alive. You don't want to kill it first. You want it to be fresh. You don't want its brain splattered everywhere. So before they boiled the frog.
What were you... Huh? What? What, you think the other option is shooting the frog?
Before they boiled a frog, they would make the water not super hot, just warm. And they would put the frog in there. And the frogs live in water. So they're comfortable, they're fine. And the frog is in there, and it's warm, and then they turn the heat up.
I mean, I love how he's doing this. Like this is going to be the first time anyone listening has heard this.
A little bit.
With the fucking Louisiana introduction and shit.
The frog, again, it lives in water. It doesn't mind. And they turn the heat up a little bit more. And then the frog doesn't jump out because it was warm before. It just got to be a little bit warmer. And they turn
I mean, people who are better at this than him will note that frogs are cold-blooded, and therefore their body temp is adjusting along with the external temperature. I mean, but again, this is not actually how any of it works, but that is why people think it makes sense. It isn't that the frog's like, oh, well, I live in water and this is just warm. It's that the frog's body temperature, the reason this is supposed to work this way, which it doesn't, is that the frog's body temperature, the frog's core temperature, is adjusting along with it, so it feels like a normal temperature.
Eat some more.
If that were how this works.
Eventually, they boil that frog to death. But the way they do it is they don't take a boiling pot of water that's already boiling and try to put the frog in there, because then the frog will jump out. So what they do is they get a lukewarm pot of water and they put the frog in, and they gradually turn up the heat, and they gradually turn up the heat, and the frog doesn't notice until it's too late. Until it's too late, until that frog is already on the brink of death, it doesn't notice, hey, I'm being boiled so someone can eat me, and it doesn't.
I'm not sure that the frog ever puts together that this is for the purpose of being eaten.
Jump out of the pot.
Or, for that matter, that it is a deliberate thing that's being done. I don't think frogs understand about gas ranges.
That's what they're doing to us, folks, in case you haven't realized it.
Wow, that is such an original insight. I've never heard anyone say, we're like frogs in lukewarm water that keeps getting warmer. That's...
Yes, if they were to announce a draft tomorrow, we're going to invade Iran and North Korea and Russia and China at the same time and draft us all. Yeah, there'd be riots in the streets. They're not doing that.
I mean, they're not doing that, and there is still an uprising in the streets.
And yeah, they're not, making the cost of housing, triple overnight because they're.
I mean, it did kind of. The cost of everything else did actually double in very short order a couple of years ago.
Rebellion, there'd be riots in the streets, so they're not going to do that, right? They're boiling us like frogs. They're boiling us like frogs, and some of it is intentional. Because they think there are too many people in the world. They're Malthusians.
Oh, we got a Malthusian.
The problem is overpopulation. And some of it is just...
I mean, the wild thing is there in the Epstein emails, there are some actually from Bill Gates that can be read as this. Like, there's some where the way he says it says that, a way for there to be no more poor people. Which is not really the same thing as saying no more poverty, now, is it?
Their goddamn mismanagement. They don't know what they're doing, right? I mean, they don't, it's like a chicken running around with its head cut off. Using a lot of rural animal.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a cat on a hot tin roof. We just go through all the
analogies these days, right? I sound like Tom Sawyer or something. You know, there's the analogy they say if you behead a chicken, it doesn't.
He's going to explain this to you. God, he thinks that his cult members are the most ignorant motherfuckers in the history of ignorant motherfuckers.
Keeps running around for the first little bit. It doesn't immediately die, right? And that to some degree or other, they're not in control, right? I don't think there was some conspiracy. They didn't get up there in the 90s and say, all right, we want those doctors to overprescribe opioid medications to people. We're going to send, opioid and big pharma salesmen to doctors and tell them that painkillers aren't so dangerous. And we're going to do that to get everyone addicted to drugs and addicted to painkillers. And that'll get them. No, they didn't.
I mean, it is kind of wild. This is what he's talking about. Like, there are literally urgent things going on that you would have absolutely no trouble building a sense of urgency around, as evidenced by the fact that people are taking urgent action and, like, literally risking their lives. And this is what he's talking about.
Do that. Big Pharma said, we need to sell more opioids. We need to sell more painkiller medicines. And so let's figure out how we can do that. And let's take the facts about how painkillers work, and we'll play with them a little loose, and we'll get some salesmen, and we'll give those salesmen a bonus for all the opioids they sell, and that's what happened. And then that was combined with the fact that the economy was getting worse, the living standard was dropping, it was getting a lot harder, and stress was becoming more and more of a reality in Middle America, right? There are all these other factors, right? The good-paying industrial jobs are gone. Infrastructure, technology, the tendency of the falling rate of profit, all that I talk about on this stream. So that was another factor. And so, opioid addiction, right?
Okay. Like, where is he? I want to know when he's going to talk about dissident MAGA.
And the first time poison gas was ever used, widespread machine gun use, it was a display of barbarism. And then afterwards, we had the Roaring '20s. The economy rebuilt itself. Rosa Luxemburg wrote in her famous Junius pamphlet, published at the beginning of World War I, she said, this is the beginning of a process where first we have this awful, horrendous mass episode of destruction, World War I, and then we recover from it.
Okay.
And then...
I mean, it's nice to see he's diversifying his reading a little bit. I've never heard him quote Rosa Luxemburg before. Granted, I mean, he mostly tries to recruit the sort of people who would have shot her in Liebknecht, so...
We're going to have World War II. I mean, she didn't know that exactly, but she said it's going to be sporadic at first, where every so often the system reboots itself with a big, giant war and destruction. But it's going to get to the point that war becomes a constant reality, a necessity. They're going to need war just to keep their system going.
Okay. I mean, a lot of people have been talking about this for a long time. Is this new to you, Caleb?
And that is going to be when Western civilization falls apart. And she said that will be the end of the West, when we get to the point that war becomes a necessity.
I mean, we got to that point quite a long time ago, which is why, I mean, really, the U.S. has kind of always been at that point, which is why the U.S. has spent way more time at war than not. Like, virtually the entire history of the United States, the country has been at war with somebody.
It's a lot like drug addiction, right? Somebody wants to have a good time at a party, I guess.
So they start a war.
Up once, wow, that was fun, and a couple of weeks later they shoot up again. Oh, wasn't that fun? And then they start shooting up every day because it's just so much fun. But pretty soon they need the drug to feel normal, right? And pretty soon, they're not.
He's just knocking it out there with the metaphors here.
A thrill out of shooting up. It's just the only way to not feel sick and not have withdrawal. And then gradually, even as they are shooting up, that withdrawal that normal that they feel when they're on the drug gets less and less and less normal, and they're even sick when they're taking the drug, and then pretty soon they die.
Okay. Well, we're getting short on time, so I'm going to skip further.
around the world. I'm going to make peace. And he bombed Iran, and Obama and Saudi Arabia, they dropped the oil prices in 2015. They tried to just impoverish Venezuela and Iran and Russia, and it didn't work. Now oil prices are back up to some degree or other, and Trump is sitting there in the White House, and he came in.
Yeah, let's remember, this is the guy who is really pushing the idea that MAGA means peace. And Trump has been just tearing the shreds of his indignity off of him for like years now, actually. And he just, no matter how many times he desperately tries to bring them together, is this where he suddenly notices that actually his headcanon does not really work in the real canon?
Said, I'm going to make peace around the world. I'm going to make peace. And he bombed Iran, and he kidnapped the president of Venezuela. He's threatening to bomb Iran again. He said,
I mean, he threatened to invade Venezuela during his first presidency. I mean, the phone call was coming from the inside the fucking room.
Said he was going to make peace with Russia. He was going to end the Ukraine conflict. Hasn't happened yet. I keep hearing good news, but I've been hearing good news for a year. People are dying on the battlefield. They can't stop having wars. And meanwhile, at the same time they're having the wars, right, it used to be that when they had one of these wars, you know, World War I was followed by about a decade of stabilization. For about 10 years after World War I, the world economy stabilized.
I mean, that's kind of a weird way of putting it, actually. Because, I mean, what happened... Oh, no, he's talking World War I. I was about to talk about World War II.
And World War II was a huge episode of mass destruction, and the 1950s, from 1946 to 1971, you had the post-World War II economic expansion.
I mean, it's actually not quite that long, even. I mean, to some extent, yeah, I mean, in terms of an expansion globally, yeah, okay. Well, like, within the U.S., actually, it slowed down in, like, the late 50s, 60s, because the U.S. had the advantage of being the only country, the only industrial power that didn't get completely wrecked. But within 10 years, all their rivals had managed to rebuild, and they had new facilities, since they didn't have, they didn't have old facilities to use. They'd all been destroyed in the war.
Economy just kept expanding because there had been so much destruction. But now we're in this period where they can have war. We have been at war. America has been at war since 9/11. The war on terror has never really ended, right? Officially, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Biden officially declared it over. But the war on terror, since the USA...
Yeah, I mean, the AUMF has never been revoked, I don't think.
In November after 9/11. September 11th, and in November, the USA invaded Afghanistan, and then Iraq. And the USA has been at war since then. If you were born after 9/11, after 2001, the USA has been at war for your entire life.
Yeah, I mean, and if you were born before that, it's probably most of your life. I mean, like...
There are U.S. troops right now in Somalia. There are U.S. troops right now in Syria. There are U.S. troops right now in Iraq. There are U.S. troops.
I mean, this is all true, just to be clear. I mean, it's still ridiculous that he's, like, acting like he just noticed this. Like, it wasn't obvious that his fucking very special guy was not going to be a fucking peacemaker.
Right now, in the Horn of Africa and Djibouti, there are U.S. troops right now all across.
That is actually one of the largest bases in the Middle East, Djibouti.
Middle East. There are U.S. troops in the Pacific. There are U.S. troops everywhere, right? I mean, we've got troops everywhere. There is armed conflict and drone strikes and military operations going on around the clock, and our economy is not getting better. And the worst...
Well, I mean, that's why it's kind of silly to talk about our economy. Because it's like, yeah, there's our economy. Like, the economy of the working class, yeah, that economy is not doing well. But if we're talking about their economy, you know, the economy capitalists live in, the MCM world, that's doing quite well, actually.
Fear of this decaying system, right? Like, is it that somehow these military operations will end? You remember when Biden pulled out of Afghanistan. Remember that. When Biden pulled the U.S. troops out of Afghanistan, mainstream media treated it like it was a crime against humanity. Like, oh my God, how dare he? Well,
I mean, and they actually spent a while just, like, blaming it on Trump, again, as if it were a bad thing to end a horrible military occupation.
You know? The USA shouldn't have been in that country for so long, and it was such an affront. How dare Biden pull the troops out of Afghanistan? And yeah, he did it in a pretty sloppy way, and I still have got questions about how that whole thing was arranged. I don't buy into the narrative this was a huge victory over imperialism. I think it was more of a handoff and a negotiation.
I mean, it's more accurate to say that imperialism had barely managed to stabilize itself at all in Afghanistan. I mean, outside of, like, the central Kabul, they really, if they didn't have troops there was no way that they were actually going to be able to impose their will. And when the troops started being drawn down, they became very clear. Like, there was this, like, occupation puppet regime that they set up had no fucking support. It folded within a day.
Situation, and that they thought maybe the Taliban would be, you know, more of a threat to Russia and China and Iran. But regardless, the USA pulled out of Afghanistan. And when the USA pulled out of Afghanistan, it was a huge debacle, and mainstream media was furious about it, and they treated it like it was a crime. You know, and the U.S. military is spread all over the world. Meanwhile,
okay, I've just noticed the time. It is time to wrap up for tonight. Thank you to everyone who joined in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. And if you enjoyed the stream and would like to see more of it, I will be back at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time next Friday. Have a good rest of your weekend. Have a good night.